Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're live in Studio 109. It's the Jamie and Joe Show. We are live, and I'm your host, Jamie Dorley, and I'd like to welcome back the co-host, the one and only, the godfather of nutrition. Welcome back, Joe Messino.
Oh, we are back, and this is the Jamie and Joe Show, which
What is that?
The longest-running episodic duo healthy talk show anywhere on the air today, and multiple-time winner of...
The most entertaining.
That's right.
It's a lot easier to learn when you're educated.
Right.
It's a lot easier to learn when you're having fun, right,
You're
Joe?
having fun, exactly.
You know, some of my favorite teachers, there's not many of them, but a few favorites. You know, they made education fun and exciting. That's what we're going to do here today, because this is our Q2 2024 focus,
Q2
and we're going to
already.
focus on some really cool topics this quarter. One is bone joint inflammation, how some of those structural issues lead to chronic inflammation.
Oh, yeah. And just, you know what? These three categories we're going to talk about for Q2 affect just about everybody, right? At some point, if it doesn't lead into the other, you're bound to have the effects of one of them at some point.
Yeah, and a lot of times that inflammation, maybe a structural or an accident or an injury, you know, leads to a compromised immune system. Right, and then you're more prone to allergies, especially in the spring season. And then long term, what are ramifications?
Long term, you know, it's going to affect the heart and the entire cardiovascular system.
Yeah, it's still the number one killer in our country. It used to be mostly for men, but now women are catching up. So cardiovascular, heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, these become more and more prevalent the last few years. So we're going to start with bone joint inflammation.
Okay.
I know this is a hot topic for you, of course, because, you know, just like a lot of chiropractors, you crack bones for a living, right?
Used to. But, yeah, no, you know, bone joint and inflammation, let's think about it. If there's nothing else, the wear and tear over the course of your life, if you're any kind of athlete, if you do anything physical, if your job is physical, this is something you're dealing with.
Yeah, and then what about accidents, injuries? You know, God forbid, driving a car and getting an accident. Right. So most of us, if not all of us, have suffered some type of fractures, dislocations in our life. So we talk about the difference between the bone, the joints, which are all your connective tissue, the cartilage on the end of the bone, you know, the ligaments, the tendons that connect the bone to muscle and bone to bone, right? And really, what's a different approach for these types of things? And then what about when you have inflammation with a lot
that
of pain?
affects everything. That affects every part of this category, both your bones and your joints.
And the nice thing is we have some really simple solutions with nutraceuticals and food programs that you can do that can really help modify this whole inflammatory process in the body, right? So how would food affect it?
Oh, well, you know, look, food is energy. Food should be nutrition. And what's going to affect it in two ways, Jamie? It's going to either provide toxins if you're eating bad food products, or it's going to provide nutrients to help you heal, right? So food plays a big part.
Yeah, I think moving forward, we should really look at food as either being pro-inflammatory, creating more inflammation, or anti-inflammatory. So what's an example of some pro-inflammatory, what they call food?
Oh, boy. Pro-inflammatory. The biggest one is going to be fried foods with the use of these hydrogenated oils. There's nothing worse on the planet for causing inflammation.
Yeah, because that fried food contains the bad fats, right? There are good fats, of course, maybe in fish or avocados, but the bad fats give your body the building blocks for inflammation, right?
Yeah, they are pro-inflammatory.
So the other big one is dairy products, sugar, basically the grocery store, all the aisles in the middle, right? We know fast foods, but processed junk. So be very careful. It's not just about weight anymore, right? So if you have an injury and your diet is pro-inflammatory, you're going to have more pain, more inflammation, less healing, poor circulation. What about an anti-inflammatory diet? What's some examples of those foods?
Well, one right off the bat would be the Mediterranean diet. When you're eating lots of, like you said, good fats and nuts and fish, olive oil, avocados, and lots of green leafy vegetables.
Yeah, so fruits, veggies, real food, nuts, seeds, natural nut butters, you know, fish, avocados. These all have what we call anti-inflammatory properties.
Right.
So just based on the diet alone, you can get into a good balance. I got my new cup here, Nutritional Frontiers.
Salute.
Here we go. And in here I got some great water, right? because water is key. You know, people drink a lot of sodas and sugary beverages. This creates more inflammation, plus a lot of what we call empty calories. You don't really utilize them.
No, you don't. And if you're going to, look, drinking water is a must. Why not drink one that's good, that's fortified with minerals? Either a good mineral water or, better yet, fortify it with one of the Pro Colors.
Absolutely. We'll talk about Pro Reds here in a little bit. So the diet and the food you eat, what you drink, can have a tremendous impact on the inflammatory process in the body. So we're going to show you some great solutions for each of these that you put together. Did a great job on these.
Yeah, when you have good material to work with, it's easy.
So let's look at bone solutions, right? So maybe you get a fracture in an accident, right? So you break your hand. What about long-term things such as osteopenia, which is bone loss, then osteoporosis, where you actually have pores or holes in the bone.
Right. Yeah, and this is something, like I said earlier, that, as you age, a lot of people are going to experience some degree of this, right? Just from wear and tear alone. And like you said, it could be an accident. It could be a trauma that causes this. So you have to address it from the base nutrients that your body and your bone matrix needs.
Yeah, and it's not just calcium, right?
No.
People that were consuming heavy calcium carbonate over the years led to calcification in the blood, too much calcium. So we never use cal carbonate. Actually, the Super Cal Plus was one of our original formulas. And all the way back from the years of work with Dr. Jeff Bland and his team, we found that the New Zealand MCHC, the microcrystalline hydroxyapatite compound, actually incorporates not only magnesium, but all the minerals you'd find in bone, plus these live protein matrix with all the growth factors.
Right. See, it mimics more of the natural bone composition than just a plain calcium.
Yeah, because your body will do two things. Osteoblast will build the bone, and osteoclast will break it down, right?
So, and, Jamie, that's important. You got to get rid of the old bone tissue to build new.
Yeah, because the problem with these biphosphates, right, these drugs like Beniva and stuff, what do?
They don't ever let you get rid of the old bone tissue.
Yeah.
They seal it inside so that then when it breaks, it explodes.
So what happens is, on the scan, it looks like you have bigger bone, but it's actually old brittle bone.
Right.
So it looks bigger, but it's actually more prone to fractures.
Right.
You ever hear of somebody falling and breaking the hip?
And usually it's the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah.
The hip breaks and then they fall.
Yeah, they found it to be true, right? Where the hip is breaking, then the person falls down. So the key is to have the right matrix of nutrients in a natural form that's all cold processed, because these are very delicate protein factors, and these growth factors, you don't want to break them down with a heat processing like you would with bone meal or whole bone food, something like that. This is actually the MCHC that incorporates all the minerals you'd find in bone naturally, plus all the growth factors. So think about if you're making concrete. I know with your heritage, you guys do a lot of concrete, right?
A lot of brickwork there.
If you're doing concrete, what's the rhubarb in there for?
It's to keep it together, to hold it together. That's the key. And that, I think what you were talking about just a few seconds ago was the difference between something being denatured and undenatured, right? The heat denatures the process, which makes it unlike what naturally occurs.
So the great thing with Super Cal Plus, you can take it if you have an acute issue with a fracture, right, or an injury. You can take it if you're suffering from osteopenia or osteoporosis. There's two types of osteoporosis. Do you know the two types?
Two types. Well, there's one that's long-term, right?
Senility, right?
Senility.
You lose a little bit of bone over a long period of time. We've all seen a relative or a neighbor, grandparent or something. There's also one called, menopausal. This is one to be very concerned with, folks, because what happens is due to hormonal changes, right, you lose bone rapidly. So you may be 45, 50, 55 years of age, and they're seeing a rapid bone loss. You need to get support not only with the bone builder, but hormones, which we'll talk about next quarter.
And not only that, Jamie, there may be a third type. You're seeing a lot of osteoporosis in young people, which is advanced nutrient depletion.
Oh, absolutely. So a great thing for Super Cal Plus would be to use 1 to 4 per day. If for prevention, you can do 1. If you're a younger adult, you could do 2. If you have an acute issue with a fracture, 3 to 4 as a minimum until you get full recovery on that fracture. If you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, you probably need to be on a little bit longer.
You're right.
So what about some of the other solutions, such as the Super K2 Plus and the Mega K2 Plus, Joe? Don't get too excited.
I love these two
this
formulas.
This guy loves it. I'm a
love
Super
them.
Cow Plus guy. Go ahead, Joe. I don't want to interrupt you anymore.
I
Let's
love
hear
these
it.
formulas. All right, so now everybody talks about, calcium in bones. But, you do get a lot of calcium in your diet. You do get it in supplementation. The key is to make sure it gets where it's supposed to get.
Where it's supposed to get?
It's supposed to get into the bones and teeth, and it's got to stay out of the blood vessels.
Well, do we have a transporter, an escort?
Oh,
Who's going to
boy.
get this into the bones?
We sure do. Vitamin K2. Its sole purpose is to make sure that calcium gets where it's supposed to be, in the bones and the teeth. And unfortunately, Jamie, it's been a big nutrient deficiency in our society. Everybody's lacking. But the reason we put it in with vitamin A and vitamin D3 is because that forms that triad of nutrients that makes bone building complete. Vitamin A will make sure that the old bone tissue that you talked about, the osteoclast, is removed.
Oh, so we're going to excrete that out of the body.
Gotta get rid of it. And it's another deficiency in our society is vitamin A. And we wonder why osteoporosis is on the rise. And then D3 will help build the new bone tissue, the osteoblast. You have the perfect trio of nutrients in this formula.
Yeah, one of the keys is this vitamin K2, right? And a few years ago, we were working with a couple of different labs, and we were testing our K2, some of the top companies in the world,
Right.
K2, and we found it was really unstable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So K2 is between 40 and maybe 55, maybe 60% stable, even the best of them. So we worked with some of our partners, and we found that actually the Vita MK7, through some patented technology, the innovation on this ingredient is incredible. They've been able to stabilize at 99.99%.
Well,
So-
it's interesting that you bring that up because it is a fermented nutrient, and that's probably what contributed to the instability. But that when you use a patented research trademark form of it that has solidified that and published the results, well, you can't get any better.
Yeah, and you see the difference on this. Plus the dosing. I remember when, 45 micrograms of K2 was a lot. What about now?
No, we need 300 to 500 micrograms. The reason, folks, is very simple. When you have a perfect diet and you're getting some in your diet, then you don't need to supplement that much. But if you've gone decades without this nutrient, you got to catch up, and we need to have therapeutic levels to do that.
Yeah, and they looked at the studies. We just talked about menopausal osteoporosis, right?
Yeah.
So with the K2, they found that menopausal females actually need more K2 per day. So you can go higher with the dosing. They found it to be very safe and very effective. So it's going to help clean up any calcification in the blood,
That's right.
right? It'll actually reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease.
There's a
and events.
PSE right there. Positive side effect.
And it's going to drive everything into the bone that you need to help build the bone.
right.
So
That's right.
what is the downside?
There isn't any.
Oh.
There's no downside. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs to
And
be
what's
on
the
it.
dosing you would recommend on the Super K2 Plus?
Yeah, the nice thing about this formula is that one capsule daily will supply the dose just about everybody
Well,
needs.
salute, Joe. We love that. One capsule per day.
Salute.
Super K2 Plus. What's in between the Super K2 Plus and the Mega K2 Plus?
Just one major difference, Jamie, and that is that the vitamin D has gone from 5,000 IUs to 10,000 IUs in the Mega K2.
What? 10,000 D3? Isn't that too
Oh,
much?
no,
What about
come
D3
on.
toxicity, Joe?
I've heard somebody talk about this for about 10 years now. I think it was me. Right? But no, there's no D3 toxicity, folks, because we're very deficient in it, number one. And number two, we know that it's really actually a hormone in the body, not a fat-soluble vitamin.
How many people have you heard of that were suffering from D3 toxicity?
Oh, let me think about that for a second. 0.0.
None.
None.
Right? Well, that's a good number, folks. They're talking about raising the D3 levels from 1 up to 250 or 300, right? Because they know that this is a powerful hormone-like substance, and that even JAMA a couple years ago was saying, "Hey, get the levels up to 40 to 60 at least."
At least.
Yeah, they were saying 10, 20, 30,000 a day until you get your levels up to optimal ranges.
Right.
Dr. Tracy Straub's program, Beyond the Blood Work, right? She talks about D3 range is 30 to 100. Think about a test in school, 30 is fouling and left back. Even 60 isn't good enough. You need about an 80 to 90 just to make sure you're getting a good grade. D3 is the same way. So there are reference ranges and then optimal ranges.
Big difference.
So speaking to that, you know, there's many times that people are dealing with bone, joint issues like this. They're not absorbing the nutrients, right? There's an over-reliance on these purple little pills, right? These antacids.
Yes.
So why is so many people on the antacids?
Well, you know, for actually the opposite reason, that they think they're on it. They think they're on it because they think they make too much stomach acid to digest their food, when it's actually the opposite is true. They're not making enough, and that comes from diet choices, lifestyle choices. So we have to help that.
Yeah, if they're eating too much food that's not going to digest, right? Junk in. You know, they're eating a lot of fast foods. That food sits there and ferments and it spoils.
Yes.
And then the bacteria will spit up acids. Plus, you eat too much, you know, your diaphragm is going to be backed up. It's going to be really, the esophageal sphincter is going to be pushed up. The acid is going to go in the wrong spot, right? So the idea is to eat food that is going to be able to be broken down in the intestinal tract. If it can't break down on your counter, Joe.
Yeah, it's not going to break down in your gut either.
No. So let's go back to a more fruit and veggie-based type of diet. And one of my favorite formulas is Betazyme. And this is a great digestive enzyme plus. It has all the pancreatic enzymes in it, plus what else, Joe?
Well, you know, it has something called oxbile, which a lot of people now, you know, these days you run up someone who has either having gallbladder trouble or they've had it removed. And if that is the case, then your liver needs help with the bile that it produces. And this is what the gallbladder was doing. So if you don't have it, you need this nutrient to help with that process.
Yeah, and the reason we want to take that digestive enzyme, it's really good with the oxbile, breaking down fat. Talking about fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, K.
Oh, where have we heard those before?
Goes great with the Super
great
Cal
with
Plus,
Super K2 Plus.
Super K2 Plus, Mega K2 Plus, right?
Exactly.
So Betazyme Plus, if you don't have a gallbladder, if you're trying to break down fat, you have autoimmune conditions, you get in the picture, Joe?
Absolutely.
Quite a few people would do really well on Betazyme. I love Betazyme. I noticed if I don't take it, I just went back on it, because I was like, I definitely feel better when I take it. Nowhere near as bloated. Even when I have smaller meals, the Betazyme is fantastic. So we talked a lot about bone health. We got Super Cal Plus, Super K2, Mega K2, and Betazyme. Let's talk a little bit about joints, because, you know, the bones can be good, but the connective tissue, you know, the cartilage at the end of the bone is really a shock absorber. And people that have osteoarthritis, joint degeneration disease, you know, they have advanced stages. They'll even say it's bone on bone, right? So we know that there's still cartilage there, and there's hope. However, it's been so deteriorated, we got to give it time and the nutrients. If you're going to remodel your kitchen, you need the right type of material. If you're going to remodel your joints, what do you need?
If you're going to remodel your joints, there's one nutrient that's an absolute must, and that is hyaluronic acid, so that you can make sure that you're delivering the nutrients that will allow the joints to reproduce, to heal, and to get that cushion back.
Yeah, it's not just hyaluronic acid, but it's the biocell.
Well, the biocell
that is
type
the
2
PRT.
collagen.
What's PRT mean?
Patented, researched, trademarked.
Yeah, so we have the MK7, the PRT, the MCHC, and now we're talking about the biocell. So historically, hyaluronic acid has been hard to absorb orally, so you had to do shots and creams. What's the problem there?
Well, the problem there is it's still not getting well absorbed into the bloodstream. The shots, you know, that's not something you can do on a regular basis.
Well, that's the problem. It's the cost, it's the inconvenience, it's the money, it's the pain, right? So not real convenient.
No.
So what BioCell did, the company, back in 2004 in Newport Beach, California, they published their landmark studies on joint health.
Right.
So what they found is when they reduced the molecule and the molecular weight by 1/600th, right, down to 1/600th the size, what they found is it get into the blood. It actually gets in there about 4 hours. It peaks in about 12. So part one of this published study was, does it get in the blood and when does it peak? Part two, more importantly, the study was, well, does it get in the joint and how long does it stay in there? Because we want to see, is it continuing to remodel the tissue? And they found it'll stay in the joint for over 28 days.
Wow.
So we know HA Plus, which incorporates the BioCell, which is a matrix of type 2 collagen, also hyaluronic acid, and naturally occurring chondroitin, right? What's the plus? We had an MSM and glucosamine.
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
and I think that's one of the keys to the success of this formula. With MSM, Jamie, we see people who are deficient in that all the time when we do mineral tests. And the fact that you're not getting it in your diet, this is key to healing. So it's going to enhance any healing process.
Absolutely. So HA Plus has been one of our flagships. It's been around BC before Nutritional Frontiers even started. Dr. Warner used it in the Wellness Center. We've used this with tremendous results. The only time it doesn't work if people don't take enough of it or give it long enough.
Right.
So you can go up to 8 caps a day to start. I like to go a higher dose at the beginning, and then you can start to taper it down over a period of time. So first bottle, get the 240 count, do 8 a day.
Right.
4 in the morning, 4 at night. Second bottle, look at maybe 6 a day and see how you do. Give it at least 2 to 3 months at the higher dose. The ultimate goal is to get down to about 2 per day for maintenance.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're doing the maintenance, you're just providing the food and the nutrients your body needs to stay healthy.
Yeah, because we got to build it back up. And you have advanced degeneration, Joe. There's a lot of building up that needs to occur. Think about it like your kitchen, right? If you have to remodel a kitchen, you need the right materials and give it time that this is really going to grow in the body, right? It will build when you give it the right nutrients it needs. And the building blocks of cartilage and connective tissue is the BioCell, glucosamine, and MSM.
Exactly.
So the other thing we really enjoy is the Glyco Omega, this Perna, right, as we call it. We know the owners, Big Ben and Little Ben, right, Winters, all the way from New Zealand. The Green Lip Muscle. So the Green Lip Muscle is an extraordinary formulation.
Yes.
It's from this Glyco Omega, which actually has the active ingredients. So what are some of those active ingredients in the
that's
Perna?
the beauty of this. They're these glycosaminoglycans, okay? Big word. But boy, it provides building blocks for everything, tissues, bone, all connective tissue, even muscle. You're getting amino acids and minerals and omegas all in this one food product. It's amazing.
And we have a great testimonial we're going to play. This is from Dr. Brenda Montrella and her husband, Bill. And they love to dance. Bill actually took the knee out dancing one night with Dr. Brenda. And then lo and behold, she says, what can I do for my husband? So Mikey G told her, Green Lip Muscle.
Yep.
And then after 2 bottles, let's watch the video of him dancing again. Pretty cool, huh, Joe?
Oh, you gotta love it. Gotta get on that dance floor. I might have to get a bottle myself.
So the Green Lip Muscle is great for connective tissue, sprains, strains, rotator cuffs, lack of range of motion. It really helps lubricate the joint. What I learned from the owners of the company all the way from New Zealand when we met at the trade show a few times is that a lot of the Green Lip Muscle on the market is diluted. They take the extracts out so they can make 3 to 1 of the products, right, which increases profit but decreases results. Not Mr. and Mrs. Winters and the family. Ben Winters, the dad, the CEO still, and Ben Jr., the president. We met the mom before. They said, oh, no, we did not compromise quality. No. We brought the Glyco Omega to the market 40 years ago, and we continue to bring it to the market. Only the top quality ingredients.
Absolutely. It's been a great formula for us. And this gives you a little idea of what you're getting. Many people are getting amino acids separately, branched chain amino acids. We have a formula with branched chain amino acids. But everything is naturally occurring. Look at that. Omega 3, 6, and 9, all in this one amazing food product.
I love it. And the great thing is it's easy to dose. You can do up to 3 times a day to start for an acute. Go to that 9 a day, then 6 a day, and then down to 3 a day.
And that's the beauty of this. This is the second time we've mentioned that kind of dosing. And that exemplifies the difference between functional medicine and nutrition as opposed to allopathic. Because what happens, Jamie, when you take a drug for pain? Over time, you need more.
Well, and look at these ingredients. The BioCell and the HA and the Glyco Omega and the Green Lip Muscle. They're both whole food extracts, right? The type 2 collagen has the hyaluronic acid and has naturally occurring chondroitin. You know, the Green Lip Muscle has chondroitin, glucosamine, amino acids, hyaluronic acid, Joe, all in one naturally occurring complex.
That's right.
This matrix of nutrients must be kept in a very delicate state so that you don't disrupt those ratios. And that's exactly what the green lip mussel has. The glyco-omega, what a great ingredient. Can you take that and HA Plus together?
Oh, absolutely. These are made to complement each other, Jamie. There are no adverse reactions when you're using food-grade supplements like this.
Yeah, and this chronic inflammation can affect all types of different tissues in the body. We're talking primarily about structure now. We are going to transition to, immune system, right, and allergies.
Right.
All leading eventually to cardiovascular disease, right? So really important we get this under control. Another really innovative ingredient, probably the best invention in the whole
Dr. Bob
century.
says, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with him because, you look at omegas up here and what's the concentration, EPA and DHA, and now they found something called SPMs, Joe.
Oh,
Tell me about it.
SPM stands for Specialized Pro-Resolving Mediators. These pro-resolving mediators are the final product from an omega-3 supplement or food. And these are the ones that are going to get deep into those inflammatory pathways. The 14, 17, and 18 pathways are the most difficult. Now, when you hear the term pro-resolving mediators, what does that mean? Well, there's inflammation that hasn't been resolved. And so these mediators, they go in and they mediate the process and they resolve the inflammation.
Yeah, when that is resolved, know what happens now? Healing occurs. We always forget that part. We think of cooling inflammation, but now when these deep concentrations are able to digest that inflammatory cascade that's occurring, now healing is accelerated, Joe.
Right.
To the point pain down 29% in 1 month. High sensitivity C-reactive proteins down 43%.
Oh, and that is the #1 marker for heart disease.
Prostaglandin, PG2, pro-inflammatory prostaglandin, normalized in 4 weeks. Even fibrinogen rates normalized in 8 weeks. These are all published studies, folks, on JAMA.
And that's amazing because these are things that took lifetimes to create, and we're getting results in weeks. That's just incredible.
And we even have a great video. This young woman here had a client come into her office. He had a cane, and what did he do with the cane, Joe?
He threw it away.
Let's see it.
Came in with a cane, went out without it.
So a guy came into your store with a cane, and in 3 months he threw it away?
He threw the cane away, didn't
And
he?
what did you help him with?
SPM.
We love it. And, there's other ways that we can go about the inflammatory process. If it's more localized pain, we can use something like X-Flame, which we've had around now for over a decade.
Oh, yeah,
It
absolutely.
incorporates some of the more traditional herbs like boswellia and turmeric, right? Cayenne pepper and ginger and stuff, but also has 2 key PRTs, my favorite being DMG.
Of course.
So tell us about DMG, Joe.
Well, DMG, dimethylglycine, or darn mighty good. This little nutrient, and it's an endogenous nutrient, folks. Your body makes it, but in very, very small amounts. We need therapeutic levels. This little nutrient is the key to everything because it has a patent, an actual patent, on the inflammatory process with rheumatoid arthritis, one of the most debilitating inflammatory disease states out there. And not only that, it's going to increase oxygen utilization, which means when we combine it with all these other nutrients, the uptake of those nutrients gets even better.
Well, that's a great thing, Joe, is all the research behind DMG, otherwise known as darn mighty good. It will actually has a U.S. patent on the modulation of the immune system in the treatment of inflammatory disease, rheumatoid arthritis.
I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that when it comes to inflammation. It's debilitating.
And cresalazine was studied head-to-head against NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and 70% of the people got better results on the cresalazine.
And it's an all-natural.
Any side effects.
Right.
Some of the support ingredients we talked about, turmeric, boswellia, quercetin, cayenne, all in one. The great thing, X-Flame comes in a powder or a capsule.
Or a capsule, so whichever your delivery method preference is.
If you wanted the straight herbal form, you have Inflam. People really like the holy basil in there, right?
Yes.
It has a curcumin, which is the PRT for curcumin. interesting enough, most of the curcumin on the market, not the curcumin, but the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
were all studied on Indian population, which have a high diet, right?
Of curcumin, of turmeric.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was actually studied on the U.S. population. They found with the curcumin, most turmeric or curcumin will break down really quickly in about an hour in the body, and it goes away. This one actually maintained its stability and its results for over 12 hours.
And that's the golden standard. If you get that 12-hour half-life in the body, you're doing something.
So we got a great testimony here from bone joint inflammation. Really love this one. She's so excited the results she got. Just fantastic. So last one I want to talk about, Joe, is the CBD and sciatica testimonials. So let's hear it.
Well, CBD is important. Why? Because this nutrient touches just about every system in the body, from the central nervous system to the digestive system to the cardiovascular and also the inflammatory process in the body. It's a natural anti-inflammatory that works on multiple levels.
Yeah, that's the great thing is that we use a transdermal cream, so it actually will drive through the skin transdermally, get inside the cell, and cool inflammation and pain down within 5 minutes. You can use it for headaches, like if the temples are real, hurt right here, behind the neck, and any structural area. If you can point to it, put it on. Make sure you rub it in for about 2 to 3 minutes, and I would do that 2 to 3 times a day. So thanks for the great education, Joe. I learned a lot about bone, joint, and inflammation. Really excited for this Q2 focus that we have here. The next segment is going to be looking at really, now we're going to go deeper into the immune dysfunction, leading to a much higher risk of allergies. You don't get an allergy. It's a dysfunction in the body, and then all
the
leading
immune system.
to cardiovascular disease. So thanks, Joe. Great job today, as always. Thanks for all the support, people. Have a great day, a great quarter, and God bless.